the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat?
Good evening and welcome to Posse Presents. Yeah, I know, my song, my music, I jam, I can't help it. Anyway, last week I mentioned as we were going off the air that I may or may not go to an event on Sunday, and I went, and it was absolutely wonderful. And I have to give proper thanks to Steve and Jen, who for their hospitality and who go, above and beyond to help homeless animals. It was great to see all the Hartford crew and support Kenway's cause. It was a golf and dinner outing, and clearly, funny as it would be, I did not golf. I just went for dinner. Yeah, me and golfing, not so much. But me and too many sports, not so much. But yeah, we're going to leave that alone because that is kind of funny. But yeah, it was really, really awesome to see all the people that I saw there. And I'm not going to go through naming names. But, really, it's wonderful to see, Steve and Jen own the business. It's wonderful to see a business open their doors to help the animals, to get involved, to be able to use their facility, to have gatherings and to do things to make a difference. More people really should get involved. Find what your niche is and do what you can do. These people, not only do they allow themselves to be found by the animals who need them, and they do a fabulous job. I got to meet one of their pups, and gosh, I was in love. But they truly, they saw what they could do to help, and they do it, and they've done it a number of times. And really kudos to them for making a difference. And as I say all the time, there's always something you can do, and everybody really should, if they want to help. It doesn't have, if you can't adopt and you can't foster, I always say it, there's always so many ways that you can do something, whether it's transport animals that need to get from point A to point B, or, posting them on Facebook, or going down to the pounds and taking pictures and posting them afterwards, helping out with, web pages and Facebook pages and Pet Finder and all of the ways that these animals get exposure. If you've got, a business and you can think of an angle of something that you can do, host an event, do something, reach out and find out what you can do. Maybe you don't have the complete idea, but if you talk to somebody, two heads are better than one. You can complete an idea, and you can have a fabulous turnout for something that will definitely make an impact. So, think about it. Really, there's always plenty of stuff you can do. There's people who run for animals. There's people who, do a lot of things. So find a way, do something, get involved, because it's nothing but rewarding, I promise you. On to the fact that it was a tough week on many levels. There was one dog apparently that did not make it out of Hartford. And, one dog may sound small in the grand scheme of things when you think of all of the animals that don't make it out of the pounds and the shelters that they're in. But, with Hartford's track record, one is huge. So, my heart goes out to everyone involved in that. And, there's still too many dogs out there. There's a number of pounds that have urgents. And, I can't stress it enough. Urgent means just that. It's not just a word that they put in front of, the situation. Urgent is life or death. So, rather than have it be death, you can make all the difference in making it life. So please consider, sharing, adopting, fostering, do what you can do, because any loss is too big a loss, and there's still too many pounds facing it. I always say that, summer is the worst time, but we're not past it yet. Technically it's still summer, and now it's a little bit of that hitch in the giddy up where people are getting back to school and trying to rearrange their schedules and their lives, and it's not the most convenient time to some to want to take on an animal and take on anything extra, but it's still crucial because those poor babies are sitting there and waiting to die. So please don't let that happen. Reach out however you can and make a difference. On Sunday, I got to see one of our Pound Posse Presents friends, Laurel, who, if you remember, I mentioned had a birthday last week, and we've got tentative plans to have her bring her newest baby on the show, Moo. But unfortunately, she's having both Moo and Addie are having, and you've met Addie on the show too, having some medical issues. So if we can keep them all in our thoughts for a positive outcome, especially I think for Addie, because hers seems to be a little bit more pressing. I'm sure Laurel would appreciate that, because she loves these babies with all her heart, and she does take in the seniors and the sick ones, and the ones that don't have much time, and it's really hard when it's looking like maybe they're going to have less time, and I can certainly relate to that. So definitely keep Laurel and Addie and Moo in your thoughts, please. It makes a difference when everybody's energy gets together and focuses on one cause. This week was the anniversary of the September 11th attacks, and I know that some people are sick to death of hearing it, and some people don't like to talk about it, and other people talk about it maybe too much. But it's interesting because I saw several people posting this time around that, instead of being, self-righteous and all boo-hooey one day a year in memory of the lives that were lost and the events that took place, people should concentrate on being better every day. And, that's so very true. There's a lot of ways that we can improve and help each other out and make a difference, even to people. And I don't preach people because I don't particularly care about people, but that's neither here nor there. Another aspect of this I'm bouncing all over tonight, folks, so stay with me. I've had a tough week, is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, my truck broke down on September 11th, and it was lucky that it was in the parking lot where I've been working. If it was on the highway or anywhere else, I would have probably, I wouldn't have known what was going on, and my truck would have been toast, and that wouldn't have been good. But, in the side of being grateful for things and grateful for people and being better, like I just said, my boss, John, I have to thank him because, he was helpful, and he enlisted someone to fix my truck. And that person did fix my truck, so my thanks goes out to Ken, who really was my knight in shining armor and saved me in no small way. And I have to thank Caitlin, who got me home because my truck had a sleepover, and you never saw anybody freak out and pace the floors like I do when I don't have a vehicle, even if I don't want to go anywhere. It's terrible. It's, you're so used to knowing that you can just jump in the car and go. And I'm not going to lie, it kind of ruined some of my plans. Not that it's the end of the world, but when you have plans for a day off and now you don't have a vehicle, it kind of stinks. But anyway, Caitlin got me home, and I appreciate that because she went, the other direction from where she had to go home. So I also made it back to pick up my truck in grand style, but I'm not going to divulge the details of that on TV, other than I'm pretty sure that my mother's ashes were probably shaking in their urn. But anyway, I was not able to make going to court on Thursday because of my truck, which was not, had been part of my plan. It was not my plan to miss it. But apparently the Wolcott ACO pled not guilty to the charges brought against him for animal cruelty. That's kind of not a surprise because, why would he want to man up? But, stuff is on camera, so I don't know how you can plead not guilty to stuff that you've been caught doing. But it's all good. There's a continuance. The next court date is supposedly October 17th. So we'll see how that pans out and if that ends up being an actual date, because the first court date bumped a little bit. But definitely we'll keep you up to speed on when that date really is, and hopefully I will get there this time. We'll see. Yeah, I am jumping all over tonight. I can't help it. Back to the whole September 11th thing. Dogs played a huge part in the September 11th aftermath with search and rescue and search and recovery. There were places that people just could not get to. These dogs, trained far beyond what any human could do to try to find people. The last of them passed away not too long ago, from what I understand. And I have read that there are actually plans to take some of the ashes of the search and rescue dogs and incorporate them into the memorial at the actual site. So that's kind of cool, people who say they're just animals and all that, they're really not, because they do more for us than I think in a lot of cases we do for them. I told a story a couple years ago now on a different show. Before I came out on my own here, I had gotten my time slot, but I wasn't on the air yet, and Speedo's nodding because he remembers that night. There was one dog who did perish in Tower 1, and it was a Port Authority bomb-sniffing dog named Sirius. Now, Sirius was a 4-year-old yellow lab, again, a bomb-sniffing dog, highly trained, there in the offices in the basement, and her human partner, Officer David Lim, crated her after the plane hit and promised that he'd be back. And he went up, bounding up the stairs to try to facilitate some of the rescue efforts. Actually did get people out of the towers. Apparently when the tower collapsed, he was stuck, but he made it out alive, and all he was concerned about was his dog, but they would not let him go back into the rubble to try to find her. Clearly it was too dangerous, but he wanted to try to find his dog, because there's a partnership there. There's more than just it's more than just a working relationship. When you have a dog like that, that's your baby. But she was found in January. They did call him to the site when they found her, and from what I have read, it was determined that she was killed instantly when the kennel collapsed. So in some ways that's, more fortunate than to think that she suffered, although I can't imagine, what surrounded her before it happened, and her anxiety. But Officer Lim was allowed to help get her out, and just like you saw every time they brought a person's remains out, everything stopped, everything went quiet. They did the same thing for Sirius, which, she was a hero. She served her purpose, and she was definitely, worthy of the same treatment that the humans got. So, when she was removed, that she got the same treatment as everybody else did when they came out. So, you really do have to give your thanks to the animals that serve us. You've got guide dogs, you've got bomb-sniffing dogs, you've got, search and rescue dogs. They play a huge part in the world, and a lot of them, believe it or not, are dogs that are adopted from pounds. They're not all just big goofballs that, don't serve a higher purpose. Animals are intelligent, and, you really just have to find the right niche for them. Dogs like to work. They like to have a reason. It's not all about every time you have to have, trained from a puppy to be able to do special jobs. Sometimes you have a dog in a pound and it wasn't right in a home. It's just because it needed more. And sometimes people do see beyond, this unruly critter that's, jumping around in a kennel, and put it to work and work with it and kind of like communicate in the right way. And it can be an amazing thing. So really, that's my story about Sirius. And clearly, it's important to be grateful for stuff. It's important to be aware of the stuff that happens. There's a lot of people, like I said, who don't want to talk about 9/11 or anything. Everybody's like, oh, where were you? Where are you? You see it every year. I don't think anybody's ever going to forget where they were. I mean, I remember very clearly where I was. I was at work, and I'm not going to bore everybody with all those details. But for those of you who don't know, I'm from New York City, and that was, fortunately, I didn't personally lose anybody, and my heart goes out to the people who did. But my grandmother, who, if you know me, was my world, and she lived in the same apartment for 70 years, and she was not far from the tower. So my first thought was, holy cow, is she all right? She wasn't close enough where it should have physically affected her, but you're in the city, you hear all the sirens, you're in your late 80s, you're homebound, I mean, what could she possibly have thought? And for me to have called her that early on a weekday morning, it wasn't my usual thing. So I called my mother, and my mother talked to her any number of times in a day, and hey, did you talk to her yet? And did you hear what happened? And of course, my mother had no clue. My grandmother slept through it, bless her heart. But she lived in that portion of the city that was closed down once they closed it down from Canal Street down. I had cousins, I had an aunt, I had an uncle, I had relatives down there, so it was kind of hard. But fortunately, my grandmother was okay. We couldn't get to her, we couldn't get her out, but that was my first thought, I mean, it's I don't know. People get tired of hearing about 9/11, but you really can't forget, whether it's the animals, whether it's the people. This is just my reflection on the day and everything that happened. But, it's something that we really should remember, because it affected our lives forever. And, my grandmother, bless her heart, she was afraid of big dogs. And she heard me mention my Daisy. She loved my Daisy. The very first time she met her, I brought my grandmother to my house just so I could walk the dogs, and we were going to run an errand. And, handed her Kimba to say hi to, my little Shih Tzu, and I was trying to keep Daisy out of the car, but don't you know, all 60-somewhat pounds of Daisy jumped through the car window and jumped in Grandma's lap and almost terrorized her. I felt so bad. But Grandma and Daisy got real close, and after 9/11, I never brought them down to the city again, but my grandmother always wanted me to bring the dogs. I was like, hey, Gran, I'm coming to see you. You bringing the dogs? Really? Never mind, I'm coming. You bringing the dogs? But, yeah, anyway. I'm all over the place tonight. I know, it's great, but life goes on. This week was also, yesterday, one of my baby's birthday. Zach, can we have a picture of Bocce? That's okay. Zach's not feeling well, so he's kind of sleeping at the wheel. That's my big Bocce boy. He turned 11 yesterday, so now both of my big boys are 11. And I am in that territory where I have pretty much nothing but seniors in my house. And that's kind of a scary thing, Bocce's 11, Duke's 11, Gidget's 8. My cat is probably about 13, poor little Catnip. And my birds are all, with the exception of one, I want to say, 10, 9, 8 years old. So we're a bunch of old farts in my house, and I don't know what we're going to do pretty soon. But anyway, happy birthday to Bocce. That's a picture that's a few years old. He's a little more gray in the muzzle now. So, you could see the age in them. It's hard to watch an animal that you love age, just like it's hard to watch a person that you love age. Zach, I'll take the camera back, but that's my big boy, and yes, in case you can't tell, I'm a Stephen King fan, and I like to read, okay? And Bocce in the pink chair, there's lots of jokes about that, but we'll leave it alone. Anyway, totally losing my train of thought here because I think I'm funny. It's not good. Yeah, it's interesting when you've got all older animals, and you know, some people just adopt older animals. I'd rather have an adult animal because, you know, the puppy phase, people don't realize it's a lot of work. You know, I went through it. Bocce and Duke are the same age. I got them months apart, and they were young. I had 2 puppies in my house at the same time. Now, a lot of people can't handle one puppy, and it ends up at the shelter, at the pound, in the street, in bad hands, on Craigslist, all that fun stuff. I had 2 puppies at the same time. I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. It was very difficult because, you know, you had different stages of housebreaking, you had different stages of wanting to play with stuff, different stages of chewing and wrecking my house. You know, I was told when I got Duke, he was a good 8 weeks old. When I got Bocce, he was like 3.5 months old. There was, you know, a little bit of difference in when I got them, but, you know, I was told, and don't believe when people tell you an 8-week-old puppy is housebroken, because it's just not. You know what I'm saying? That's like impossible. I see that posted on Facebook. Oh, 8 weeks old, housebroken. Yeah, never going to happen. Anyway, I was told, I was told Bocce at 3.5 months was housebroken, and of course I got him home and the first thing he did was poop in the corner. But so much for that. You know, it takes a while. It takes training. Puppies want to chew, puppies want to play, puppies don't know what going outside is all about. They are a lot of work, and if you're not familiar with bringing up a puppy, you really need to be prepared. People complain, oh, you know, they chewed up this, they destroyed my shoes, they got my socks, they got this, they got that. You've got a puppy proof. You're the human. You're the one who can reason out all the things that a dog isn't supposed to get into. And if you leave your shoes on the floor, or if you let the dog through the whole house, if you leave your pocketbook on the coffee table, everything's fair game, because until you properly, kindly teach an animal what's off limits and what's okay, they don't know. So really, you know, if you've got a puppy, you've got to put stuff out of its reach. You've got to be the one to see it through a puppy's eyes. You know, you baby-proof your house, right? So why not puppy-proof your house? That's a huge problem where you see people giving up a young dog. Oh, well, I didn't realize it would take so much time, and you know, it's too much work, and I don't have enough time. You know, if you're not familiar with the whole rodeo of getting through a puppy, then you're much better off adopting an older dog who's probably housebroken. You know, in most cases, you can housebreak a dog who is older, and an older dog is probably housebroken. Probably. I can't say in all cases because, you know, some just never get it, and I don't understand if it's, personally, I don't understand if it's because of, like, the earlier upbringing. I mean, Gidget has a problem. I got her at 8 months old. She's, you know, she does whatever she wants, and it's very frustrating. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that's why they gave her away, is because they didn't properly introduce her to, you know, a right schedule, you know, and all that, and she just never decided to care. I mean, unfortunately, I've got the same thing with Bella, and I know nobody's heard about Bella in a while. Yes, Bella is still with me. I love her to death. She still is not consistent in her habits, but again, that stems back to whatever she was let to be done for the last 2 years before I got her. You know, consider adopting an older animal. Everybody wants the puppies. You know, older an animal is going to be calmer, hopefully, you know, at a few years old, past the destroying everything stage. Don't necessarily get two at once like I did, because you know, you probably be as gray as I am under all this red hair. But go out and adopt a dog this week, folks. You know, if you've got it coming soon, go help one of these pounds that are struggling. Go help an animal that needs a home. Even if you're just fostering, reach out to your local rescue and you know, see if they'll pull a dog and let you foster. There are so many rescues out there who are always looking for fosters. You know, I see Project Precious Rescue all the time. You know, we can pull this dog if we have a foster. Many of the rescues out there, we can pull this dog, we can save this dog's life if we have a foster. It takes you nothing, you know, to take a dog in for a little while until it gets a home. It's nothing but a stepping stone. You're not going to be stuck. The rescue has you covered. You know, you really, people say, oh, you know, I don't want to have to let the dog go. It's going to break my heart. Well, it's going to break everyone's heart a lot more if that dog dies because it didn't get a home. So consider it. Rescue, foster, adopt. Do something and make a difference. You know, there are still, like I said, a lot of pounds that are, you know, urgent. Urgent's not just a word. You've got City of Hartford, who's been slammed with more dogs than you can imagine in their time frame. Again, you know, locally, every pound has got dogs that need out, and you can make a difference. On a lighter note, it seems that Carl, my little sweet Carl, found a home. Apparently he went home a week or so ago. I forgot to mention it last week. So that's a beautiful thing. Peaches, who I mentioned, was still in need of a home. And so, you know, look back and take a look at her. And, you know, if you do nothing else, share the dogs, please, because, you know, it takes one set of eyes, the right set of eyes, to see an animal and save its life. And that's all you can hope for. So check out the Pound Posse Presents Facebook page for updates on the Wolcott ACO court date. There's also a petition going around to be signed, and that is also on the Pound Posse Presents Facebook page. I think we're pretty much ready to wrap up. What's that? Okay, yep, see, just like magic, there goes the credits. So I'm going to say peace, love, and dogs. Until next week, have a great week, and be grateful, folks. That's all I want to say. Be grateful and go adopt a dog who will be just as grateful. Good night.